Wilma McCann, a 28-year-old mother of four, was the first victim to be murdered by Sutcliffe in 1975. Her son, Richard McCann, joins me now. Richard, thank you very much for being with us on Sky News this afternoon. What went through your mind when you heard about this morning?
Well, first of all, how I heard about it this morning, which was a relief, was not by seeing it in the media. It was my little boy. My son Ellis came to tell me, he said, "Dad, he's died." And his friend had told him. My initial thoughts were disbelief, because we had heard last year that he had a heart attack and was going to die and never did. So I checked, and then obviously it was confirmed, and mixed emotions. Not sure. Nobody prepares you for that surreal experience. But not celebration is one thing I will say. And that might have been something I would have felt as a young adult. I'm 50 now. I'm 51, actually. I'm matured. And what I realised is anger and revenge, that's not good for the soul. So I let go of that 10 years ago. So strange emotions. I went up to tell my wife, and I hugged my wife, and we're getting on. I actually picked up the phone to Carl Sutcliffe, his brother, and sent my commiserations, condolences. Carl Sutcliffe wrote to me many years ago when he read my book about my journey and felt some compassion for me. So, as much as he did those horrible things, and he wasn't Peter Sutcliffe wasn't his greatest fan. I'm getting tongue-tied. Carl wasn't Peter's greatest fan, but it still was his brother after all, and I felt like I owed him that compassion.
What did he say to you?
Can I leave that private between us? He just found out himself, so I'll kind of,
yeah, of course.
It was
absolutely. No, that's absolutely fine, of course. What's it been like, Richard, growing up, knowing your chance of having a mother was taken from you by a stranger?
It's just been the most surreal thing ever. What was it like? I don't know. It's like I'd been born into some kind of movie. It was just, up until Mum dying, I was just like everybody else. And it's just been so surreal that it was done in this public way. And I've never, for many years, and until about 15 years ago, I was embarrassed about being associated with Sutcliffe and his crimes. And then, to some degree, I was embarrassed about my mum. I was embarrassed about the way that she was described by some of the media, but some of the police. Some were innocent, some were less innocent, and that had an impact on me. And I felt shame. I felt shame and I'm glad you're sharing that more positive picture of my mum, because the picture that was shown by the media, but given by the police, was her police mugshot when she was 18, and she made a mistake shoplifting. And I hated that photograph because it wasn't my mum. And every time I saw that picture over the years, many, many times, it almost distanced me from her. So what I am celebrating, maybe not celebrating, but what I'm grateful for is he's gone now. And with a bit of luck, those sometimes really sensational stories and reminders of what he did in the media, I'm talking about the tabloid in particular here, will decline. And with a bit of luck, will finish, because they won't have things to write about him now that he's gone.
It may well be the last day we speak of him, largely, Richard. One thing that I've wondered is, do you think about him every day? Is it something that you've thought about every day, Peter Sutcliffe? Or have you managed to sort of push it out of your mind as you get on with your own life and have your own family?
It's a bit like the tide. It comes in and it goes out, but it's always there. What I will say is that there was times in my life as a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, that I would think about exactly how she died, how much she had felt, and that caused me some distress over the years. But I don't have those feelings anymore. My mum's gone. His death doesn't bring her back. But I have largely been able to get on with my life eventually. I'm now married. I've got 3 wonderful children who keep us busy like everybody else. I am just like everybody else. But yes, the thoughts of mum and him are just there. It's almost like it's in your cells of your body, because it's been so public. And like I said, with a bit of luck, we'll start to see the end of that.
Let's hope so. And in the past, you've talked about your sister who tragically took her own life. How much of Sutcliffe's actions do you think were responsible for that?
I think they played a big part in how she coped or didn't cope. In fact, you know, she was before Mum died, she was almost like the second mum to us, because Mum would sometimes leave us and Sonia would look after us. So when Mum died, she took on that responsibility and she cared for her younger siblings. But there was other things that she experienced in her life, which I won't go into, but personal things which affected her too and brought her to drink. So I'm not going to give Sutcliffe the credit for Sonia taking her life, but it certainly influenced her ability to cope with life. But there was other things involved as well.
Not many criminals get a title. He was given this title, Yorkshire Ripper. It gave him notoriety, didn't it? Which means, obviously, he was in the headlines for many, many years after his arrest. Did you find that frustrating?
Absolutely. One of the things, in fact, I was speaking to somebody earlier, one of the things that I'd love to come from this is for the media, and it's quite easy to do, and we heard Fraser there just call him the Ripper. Let's stop calling these perpetrators of these significant crimes by these names that we give them. Call him Peter Sutcliffe. We know who it is. And we've got to remember, when you use those descriptive words, the R word, let's say, it reminds us of what took place. So, yes, it caused me some frustration, but it also, I believe, has inspired other killers who we've learned about over the years to follow in their footsteps, and have been found to have books about Sutcliffe in their belongings and such like. So, yeah, that giving them that title is something that I'd see, and I would hope that we would not make that same mistake and give them that notoriety going forward.
Martin Brunt made a point in his report, our crime correspondent, saying that at the time he divided opinion. Many believed he was insane, others that he was simply evil. What do you believe?
It's a really difficult question to answer. If I start imagining him being evil, it takes me into that arena of negative emotions and negative feelings and thoughts. I'd rather believe that he was ill, because then that's more palatable, shall we say. So I don't think it's as clear cut as one or the other, but I'd rather think about and decide that he was ill rather than evil. Although I have to say, you know, he did some evil things.
And of course, we know the investigation, Richard, was very flawed, and the police were led down a number of blind alleys. Do you find that frustrating, that other people have been put into a similar position as you, have lost loved ones, which may not necessarily needed to have happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's been well documented how the mistakes, the many mistakes, him being interviewed 9 times and the hoaxer and not listening. We could talk about that till the cows come home. And I'm not sure that anything positive can come from pointing the finger again at that. Lessons were learned. Things came about because of those mistakes, like the Holmes computer system, where they joined the dots together in ways they weren't able to do throughout his crimes. So I'm not sure we can get anything. What I will say, and I've been saying it for a couple of times this morning, what can come out of this, a positive thing to come out of this, is for West Yorkshire Police to finally do the right thing and give us another little bit of closure that we can have and deserve, and that is to apologise for the way in which they spoke about some of the victims who, including my mum, were less than innocent. When Jane MacDonald, the 16-year-old girl who we knew, by the way, was killed, it was said by the police that is killed an innocent victim now. My mum and all those other women were completely innocent and deserved to live. And so I would ask them to consider my invitation to make that apology, maybe at this poignant time or this significant time at the end of this journey we've all been on.
Yeah, and finally, you mentioned that you've spoken to Sutcliffe's brother. Have you spoken to any other relatives today?
I have. I spoke to one, and we reflected. how it is for us, and we are just like everybody else. You know, I'm just like the man next door. We've been born into this life, and it's so surreal. And we had a good chat, and we had a good chat about what is going on in his world. So we're not consumed with focusing, and he certainly isn't celebrating either, celebrating what's going on. But I appreciate that some people will be more than happy to see his end.